You know, if I was a Republican member of Congress and I'm listening to President Trump, the only words that enter my mind are, oh God, no, what are you doing? And that is because the issue has not gone away at all. Google searches for affordability. Look at this, up 500% this week versus the pre-2026 average. In fact, Johnny B, they reached, you have it going across the top of your screen, reached an all-time, well, I couldn't get the pen. There we go. All-time high this week. So no, the issue of affordability isn't going away. There's a reason why Republicans wanted this legislation not just passed, but signed into law by the President of the United States, because this is the issue, of course, that got Donald Trump elected in the first place, and they want to be able to give their voters something, their members of Congress something, so that the voters perhaps, don't vote him out of office come November.
Affordability at an all-time high for searches
this week? All-time high this week, affordability.
On the week that he decided not to sign the housing bill.
Great politics.
He ran on affordability,
yes,
right? In terms of fulfilling those election promises, how's the president doing?
Okay, so you see affordability up 500% in terms of people searching on Google, all-time high. This comes back to the issue we've spoken about over and over and over again. President Trump got elected to bring down inflation, got elected to fix the economy in the voters' minds. And do they think he's keeping his campaign promises? No. Oh, God, no. Trump kept his 2024 campaign promises. You go back to April of 2025 among voters, the bare majority, but a majority nonetheless, 52% said yes, 47% said no. That 52% down onto the ground now. Now it's 40%. While that percentage who said no, it's up. Now it's the clear majority. 55% say that Trump is not keeping his campaign promises. So when he is off yesterday, not signing that bill to help bring down, make housing more affordable, instead talking about the SAVE Act, this is what they're talking about. President Trump taking his eyes off the ball and not keeping his 2024 campaign
Which
promises.
party do people trust more to deal with these issues?
Yeah, so, this is the reason why Republicans in Congress simply wanted this legislation not just passed, but signed into law, because the buck is going to stop with them come the 2026 midterm elections, because President Trump is not on the ballot. Trusted more on the cost of living. You go back to January of the beginning of this year, it was the GOP by a point. Look at this. This is the trend that makes Republicans in Congress shake in their boots, because it is one thing if President Trump has low approval ratings on inflation. The question, of course, is will it funnel its way down ballot? Information like this, data like this says it absolutely will. And now Democrats lead on the issue. They got President Trump reelected in the first place, simply because they don't think the President of the United States is keeping his campaign promises, and will absolutely take it out on Republicans this fall.
A notable political environment for all the actions taken this week.
This, to me, is the Democrats' secret weapon, right? Because we talk about, oh my goodness, gas prices, and we say, hey, that's the big issue of the day when it comes to affordability. But look at this. What is folks' biggest financial concern? Gas is way down here at 8%. Look at what is number one, though. It is healthcare. It is healthcare. Number one, 22% of Americans say their biggest financial concern is healthcare. That beats food at 18%, and housing, of course, we've been talking about that housing bill, down there at 14%. Nuh-uh. They got nothing on healthcare, which is the number one financial concern to Americans today.
How do people think the Trump administration is doing on health care?
And this, to me, is why it's one of the big reasons why that health care is the Democrats' secret weapon heading into the midterm elections. Because when it comes to health care costs, look at this. Trump's net approval rating, the net approval rating of the Trump administration on health care costs. Look at this. 36 points underwater. 36% more of the electorate disapproved than approved of the job that the Trump administration is doing on health care costs. And look at this among independents. 50 points underwater. So when it comes to Americans' top financial concern, the Trump administration, 36 points underwater. And with among independents, which we know the Trump administration and Trump in particular is struggling with, 50 points underwater. My goodness gracious.
And the answer might be obvious, but which party is trusted more then on health care?
Yeah, so you see, Trump really struggling here. But here, even with the obvious, there's an interesting little nugget going on here. The party trusted more in health care. You go back to 2018, right, when they were trying to overturn the ACA, the Democrats had a 17-point advantage on health care. Look at this now. In 2026, the advantage has actually expanded out. It's actually even larger than it was back in 2018 during the Trump first midterm. Look look at this, a 21-point advantage. So you look at those healthcare costs when it comes to the Americans' top financial concerns. You look at how far underwater Trump is, especially among independents, and you see this big democratically, you go, hey, if you're a Democrat, you'd be taking the ball and running when it comes to healthcare.
I mean, of course, this also a big Democratic year.
That's exactly right. When the Democrats had a big advantage on healthcare, they got a net gain of 40 seats in the House. We'll see what happens this time around.
You know, so much has happened in 2026 so far. We forget this year began with the failure to expand the subsidies, the Obamacare subsidies that millions of people were getting. They were not extended, so people effectively lost some money on health care there. So the prediction, Mark, is what are they saying that these subsidies will ever get extended?
Yeah, so you see this huge Democratic advantage and Democrats trying to repeat what happened back in 2018 with those big Democratic gains in the House of Representatives. And one of the things that comes out is money coming out of your pocket, money leaving your pocket. Chance of the enhanced ACA subsidies will be extended this year. You know, you go back to January 1, it was a 43% chance according to the Calgary prediction market. Look where it is now. It's just 7%. It's just 7%. Those health care costs Americans feel are out of control. They really dislike President Trump on it. And Democrats, if this in fact turns out to be the case, when you see numbers like this, they may be taking the ball and running with it and running to a House majority and maybe a Senate majority as well.
It'll be interesting to see if Democrats really try to re-engage with that issue
They
in the fall.
absolutely should be running on health care. It is a big win for them. President Trump has been the most transformative president when it comes to border security. And when it comes to border security particularly, it's paying off for him in the polls. So just take a look here. Okay, net approval rating on border security at this point in the presidency. Look at where Joe Biden was. In June of 2022, he was way underwater. Look at this, 23 points underwater. Look at where President Trump is right now. He's actually above water. He is on the positive side of the ledger at plus 2 points. So he's 25 points more popular than Joe Biden was at this point in his presidency. And the American people, when it comes to President Trump, actually like the job that he's doing when it comes to border security in particular.
How does this trickle down?
Yeah, how does this trickle down, right? So we're talking about President Trump, but what about Republicans who are running for Congress come the midterm elections? Well, they would love to run on border security because just take a look at this. Party trusted more on border security. Among all voters, look at this Republican lead. It's a 16-point advantage. Republicans running away with it. Republicans far more trusted than Democrats are when it comes to border security. And look at among independents. Look at this lead among independents. It's nearly double what it is versus the entire electorate overall. A 30-point advantage for Republicans on border security. They are trusted far more on border security than Democrats are. And of course, that's because at the top of the ticket, right, the top of the very top in the executive branch, President Trump actually is running a positive net approval rating when it comes to border security.
You know, there is a difference on the approach, right, from term one to term two. During the first term, all the talk really was centered around building a border wall, right? Yeah. Where's the conversation around that now?
Yeah, okay. When it comes to extending the border wall, it used to be quite unpopular, but now if you look at the latest data, take a look at here. Net support for extending the border wall on the U.S.-Mexico border. Look at this. In term number one in 2019, the net support, more people opposed it than supported it. 7 points more opposed it than supported it back in 2019. But look at where we were by 2025. Look at that. There was actually net support for a border wall, or at least extending the border wall along the U.S.-Mexico border. So what we're seeing is, versus term number one, there are more hawkish views in the electorate when it comes to border security in particular. That's why President Trump is on the positive side of the ledger. That's why Republicans are trusted so much more on border security. And when it comes to extending the border wall, you can see more people support it than oppose it, at least in the latest polling that we have. And that is very different from what we saw in term number one. There is a reason why Republicans nationwide are licking their chops and why there are at least some Democrats who are a little bit worried, because what is true in New York City in a Democratic primary ain't necessarily true nationwide with the general electorate. I mean, just take a look here. Net favorable rating of Democrat Socialists. If you look at Democrats nationwide, look at this. Democrat Socialists are on the positive side of the ledger at plus 17 points. This includes Democratic-leaning independents. But look at all voters. A completely different world. 27 points underwater Democratic Socialists of America are in the net favorable rating. So what are we talking about? A 44-point difference here in the wrong direction when we come to Democratic Socialists of America, jumping from being pretty popular among Democrats to being not popular at all among all voters.
What about just the word socialist or socialism? How's that doing?
Yeah, okay. So, one of the trends that we have seen is among Democrats, socialism has become more popular over the last decade and a half. But what about the rest of the electorate? And this, I think, gives the game away right here. Okay, positive view of socialism. Among Democrats, look at this. Up considerably from where we were in 2010, 50% to now 66% now. That's a jump of 16 points in a decade and a half. But look at all others. The number is the same. It was 29% back in 2010. It's 30% now. Socialism has become increasingly popular among Democrats, but it is a much tougher sell in the rest of the electorate. It's a much tougher sell among independents, and this is why Republicans actually think that there could be some electoral opportunities because of these Democratic Socialists winning primaries, and why there are a number of mainstream Democrats who are going, I'm not quite sure about that.
Okay. Getting a lot of focus here in New York City. There are a lot of people, I occasionally one of them as a non-native New Yorker, think that New York gets disproportionate focus. Is this something that really is only a New York thing in terms of how people are paying attention?
No, this is what is so important. When it comes to the popularity of democratic socialism, that may stay in the major urban corridors. But when it comes to it being an issue that people are being that are talking about, this is why I think Republicans really like what's going on here. And this is because, take a look at Google searches for the DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America. Up like a rocket, up 140% from when Mamdani, who of course burst on the scene about a year ago, up 140% from his primary win. And again, we're going to highlight it right here, reached an all-time high this week. More people are interested in finding out more about democratic socialism than they ever have been in the United States of America. And given what you see in a slide like this, where you see, hey, you know what, there's still socialism isn't popular, and when you see, oh my goodness gracious, among all voters, it really isn't popular, Democratic Socialists of America, that's why Republicans are saying, hey, there could be electoral opportunities here.
Okay, there were incumbents who were felled here in New York City, won by a Democratic Socialist here. So in terms of how many more incumbents might go, what do the prediction markets say?
Yeah, if you take a look at the Kalshi prediction market, we have already seen four House Democratic incumbents lose so far. How about the chance that 6+ House Democratic incumbents lose their primaries in 2026? Look at this. According to Kalshi, a 66% chance. The highest in the 21st century before this year in a non-census year was just 3. We're talking about a real chance it will double that previous record.
That's in a primary. Fascinating to see, Harry, and thank you very much.
Thank you, my friend.